Hello, crafty friends, and Merry Christmas! I hope you guys are all enjoying a beautiful holiday season with family and friends. I wanted to take a quick moment to share with you a quick couple of cards that I made, actually four, that I made to give to family and friends tomorrow when I see them at my mom's. And I wanted to share with you how easy it is to take a large stamp and make a couple of quick cards if you're in a hurry. So all this basically was taking different pieces of colored cardstock and stamping this large stamp and then embellishing. So originally I was using this stamp jig to place this rather large stamp that I'm going to be using from Recollections. I guess the stamp is called Christmas, and it's enormous, and I love the font. I love how the whole shape is like a Christmas tree, and the whimsical stars on there just add a lot of interest and really cute. You can color them, that sort of thing. And then I got ahead of myself and I thought, oh, I'm going to make a whole ton. I'm going to mass produce. And guess what I didn't do? I didn't mass produce because sometimes I get a little ahead of myself and I'm ambitious. But then I realized the time that it takes to put into a card is sometimes not always the time that I have. So here I am just kind of fiddling with the placement. And I wound up stamping in pink pigment ink onto the clear plastic there so that I could position the stamp exactly in the center of my card. And because the stamp itself is not perfectly shaped like a Christmas tree, there's lots of wiggle room around all of the font, I decided that stamp positioner wasn't really needed. So I wound up just positioning it without that stamp positioner, and they all turned out great. I didn't have to worry that something looked a little crooked because of the whimsical font on there. So that was a nice saving grace for me. So I'm just using some embossing ink by Ranger and using an anti-static tool to make sure that I don't get any I don't get any embossing powder in places that I don't want it on my card. So again, I went back to this stamp positioner for the first card that I made, and then all the ones after this one I did not need to use that. So I just placed it down, put the corner in there, and then I just pulled a piece of plastic away and used I almost forgot how to use this thing, guys, because I'm so used to using a stamp positioner that has a door on it. So I just placed it down, put that in there, and pressed on that stamp everywhere because I know that's a really large stamp, and I'm working on a We Are Memory Keepers glass mat, and there was not a lot of cushion, so when I looked at it I thought, I don't think that got every part that I wanted to. But I usually, I just wound up putting some embossing powder from Ranger on there called Liquid Platinum. That was the look I was going for. And I put that on there, and I was really surprised that the embossing ink picked up all of that embossing powder, and I thought it turned out great. So I tapped off the excess powder, and then I moved my embossing powder out of the way because I'm notorious for dumping things over, and I did not want that to happen. So here's the magical part that I always love watching. I love watching embossing powder melt onto cardstock. I just think it's so magical, and I'm mesmerized when I do it, and I'm mesmerized when I watch other YouTubers do it as well. So I thought this turned out really pretty, and I was loving how this melted onto the cardstock, and that liquid platinum embossing powder is perfect for this cardstock. It's a nice complement. And you can see that cardstock with the image embossed is pretty busy. So I wanted to keep the rest of the embellishment simple. So I colored in the stars with a Stardust glitter pen by Sakura. And then I used the Ruby Slippers glitter Nuvo drops. And I colored in every dot where I had originally put a crystal in there. And the reason I pulled the crystal off is because when I used the multi-matte medium, it sort of dulled the crystal, so I pulled each one of those off, and then I put the Ruby Slippers Nuvo glitter drops on the card instead in each one of those spots to cover them up, to cover up that multimedia matte. And then I just tapped the behind the card to help the Nuvo drops settle and make a nice little dome. So I thought it turned out pretty. So I decided to put some really fun confetti mix, and the confetti that I'm using is called Sparkling Clear Confetti Mix by Pretty Pink Posh. And I love these little sequins. They're adorable. They do not have the traditional hole in them, in the center of them, like most sequins do. They actually look like little plates that have a mirror finish on them, and they're just awesome. So I placed these all over my card, and I have to be perfectly honest, I was struggling picking these little sequins up, and they were just flying all over my desk. And I was getting really frustrated because I have a jewel picker, and I organized my craft room, but I've still got things that are not completely put away, and I could not find that. So I used a different beading device that you see that is right there next to the right part of my hand. And that was just so huge I couldn't even see the sequin. So I edited that part out so I wouldn't torture you. So I am using a standard card base. That is an A2 top folding card, and I cannot find my Teflon bold folder either, so I used my finger to fold over that cardstock, and I didn't get a nice crisp edge to it, but that's okay because these are handmade cards, and I'm sure the recipient will appreciate the love that that went into the card. So I wanted to share another tip with you. I struggle with getting my card placed onto my card so that it's centered and it's perfectly straight, but here's a tip. You can actually use a stamp positioner, put your adhesive on it, and then stick your cardstock right up against the edge there, and you know you're going to get it in the corner perfectly placed because you are able to push up your cardstock and the base into the corner, making sure that you have a nice fit. So I did, but I did not have a clean edge on the white cardstock because my stamping, or my cutter was not doesn't have sharp blades, so I just simply cut off the edge of the paper there, and no one will know that I did that, except you YouTubers who are watching this video. So I was pretty happy with the card. I thought it was simple, but it was plain, and I really love the simplicity of it, and I think that sentiment on the front just speaks volumes about the holiday season, and I loved it. I love the whimsical font, and I just thought it turned out pretty. So here is the gray cardstock with the liquid platinum embossing powder, and then here are a few others that I did. I did some on craft cardstock and then on red, and then I also did it on white embossing powder on the blue cardstock, and I think they all just turned out pretty, and I just used complementary colors to go on each piece of cardstock that I thought would work really well. So that is it for my card today. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will chat with you soon. Thank you for stopping by, and ciao for now.